had just taken the job there 11 months ago. Prior to that, he started out working in Minnesota at the U of M as the Associate Athletic Director for External Relations from 2001 to 2005. From there, he became the Athletics Director at Boise State before advancing to the University of Kentucky as Deputy Athletics Director, and then going from there to Syracuse for 11 months before coming to Minnesota. Was apparently, fairly shocking to Syracuse. Coyle cited family reasons, which, seem legit considering this is kind of where he started in the first place. So, there's definitely, I don't like the ship jumping from Syracuse one bit, but we were able to find someone who's got experience at really big-time, credible universities with Minnesota home ties, one of our own. So I think being able to cross off both those two things on the list, make it a win, at least for now, on paper, till we see what happens, for the University of Minnesota Athletics program. All right. Moving on. Nature. We had the Kentucky Derby, the biggest race in horse racing, take place a few weeks ago, where Nyquist, this year's American Pharoah, the super stud, all-time great, historic horse, supposedly everyone's talking about, at least that way, came out and won as the favorite, as he was expected to. We said actually that week that the 1, 2, and 3 finishes were actually the exact way the betting line suggested they were going to finish, which is fairly rare that they finish exactly in order like that. But anyway, he will be going for his second win in the Triple Crown race of horse racing this Saturday in the Preakness race, stakes, whatever. Oh, it's Belmont Stakes. It's just the I've only ever heard it called just the Preakness. I don't know, but yes, well done, Scotty Ball. It is the Preakness Stakes, in fact. Now, everybody, again, what I've got for info is, it's all just secondhand, but this is what I got for info if you're interested in the horse racing this week. Nyquist is super stud, every bit as good as American Pharoah was last year, if not better. However, there are expected to be rainy, wet, muddy conditions for the race this week, which does increase the odds for a horse by the name of Exaggerator to pull off the upset over Nyquist. However, I have heard a lot of experts say that it doesn't matter what happens on the track. Nyquist is one of the best horses they've ever seen in all conditions. He has never lost a race, period. So this would be the first if he were to lose it. And it just, if you're looking for a nice, low risk, high reward payout, pick against Nyquist. But if you actually want to be right and win the money with your bet, you should probably pick Nyquist. Put some money down on Exaggerator just in case. And to just go that 1/2 inch further, for balls deep. Let's give you a third name that no one here in Minnesota has given you. Everyone's just talking Nyquist and maybe Exaggerator. So I'm going to go 1/2 inch deeper, balls deep, and give you a third horse to pick. And to me, if you're looking for a sleeper outside of those two, you would go then to the 11 post, and Stradivari would be my outside chance of pulling off the upset over Exaggerator or Nyquist. Boom! There's horse racing, for crying out loud. Alright, moving on. Alright, so we're going to be whipping through the rest of this here super quickie style as I am running out of real life time to get this week's show done. So, quickying it up with the PGA Tour. This past week we had the unofficial 5th major of the tour season, the TPC Sawgrass tournament, which had winner Jason Day, the number 1 golfer in the world, reasserting himself on top, finishing 15 under on the tournament. Just ripped out from the gate and then kind of cruised the third and fourth rounds. He was 9 under in round 1, and then 6 under in the second round, and then posting a 1 over round 3 and a 1 under round 4. I believe the cut after the first 2 rounds was even par. So if you had anyone who was over par after 2 rounds, they missed the cut. In second place, 4 strokes behind, but under par every round, Kevin Chappell. And then in a 4-way tie for third, we had Ken Duke, Matt Kuchar, Colt Knost, and Justin Thomas, all finishing at 10 under. The only other notable names in the top 10, well, all the other names in the top 10, would be Francesco Molinari, tied for 7th, along with Hideki Matsuyama. And then tied for 9th was Alex Sejka, and former former major winner, I believe it was the British Open, Graham McDowell, round out the top 10 in Sawgrass. Boom, PGA, quickie done. All right, moving on to, let's see what else is super quick. Boxing, yes, since the last time we talked, there was a big fight in boxing. Canelo versus Khan. Long story short, Canelo won decisively. In fact, Canelo Alvarez won his fight against Khan via knockout, I want to say in the 5th round. So yes, won very convincingly, and now the next step in boxing and for Canelo is a fight with Golovkin, apparently, and in an effort to help not get in the way of that, Alvarez has vacated his WBC middleweight title to help speed up those talks and not get in the way of anything. So, look for that super fight if you're a boxing fan to become announced sometime here within the next month or so, month or two, one would think, before the buzz and hype fall out of it. Alright, so moving on, I think the most natural segue out of boxing would be to the world of UFC, where we get to recap what took place this past Saturday at UFC 198, the main event, the main event of the fight was former champion Fabricio Werdum, or Werdum, however you want to pronounce his name. I like Werdum better, but losing his championship belt to Stipe Miocic, who fights out of Cleveland, Ohio, and was extremely emotional after winning the fight, tweeting out that his hometown now finally has a champion, and very, much respect and congratulations to Miocic. He won via knockout, by the way, in that match. Other match results, one I got wrong, horribly wrong, ended in a 23-second knockout. Souza defeated Vitor Belfort, so that helped me lose a little money. Another one of the big fights of the night was Chris Cyborg making her UFC debut versus Leslie Smith, and she won via knockout 3 minutes and 40 seconds into round 1, just crushing on strikes, and just really, it was not even close. Next, in the following fight, we had a very evenly scored back and forth. All of the scorecards read 29-28 or 28-29 on this next fight, but the winner via decision is Mario Shogun Rua over Corey Anderson. But again, that fight was about as back and forth scored as you can possibly get. We also had in a little bit of a surprise via the same 29-28, but it looked like it was a unanimous 29-28 for everybody. Wait a minute. That can't be right, though. No, that's what it says. Warlley Alves, slight upset to Brian Barberena. That was another one that cost me some money on my fantasy teams that I filled out on DraftKings, because you can do UFC MMA fighters on DraftKings and I'm sure FanDuel, and I enjoy doing those. In round 2, we had Damian Maia win via submission over Matt Brown. We had Thiago Santos win via knockout over Nate Marquette. We also had Francisco Trinaldo win via decision over Yancy Medeiros. We had John Lineker winning via decision over Rob Font. And in a 9-second round 1 knockout, we had Omega knocking out Patrick Cummins, and then we had Sergio Moraes. Result. Looks like it was a split decision on Moraes versus Chagas. And let's see what else we got. Renato Moicano defeated via decision Tugahov, whatever. I don't know. Some of these names are hard to pronounce, and I've never heard of them. But boom, that was it. That was your UFC 98 recap. Cyborg looking to fight either Miesha Tate or Holly Holm or Ronda Rousey coming up here in the near future. It is great for UFC that they have a new fresh cash cow in that division to milk, with how the things happened after the with the Holm Tate fight kind of throwing a monkey wrench into everybody's plans. But we'll talk more UFC coming up in following weeks. We've only got 2 topics left. We've got Major League Baseball and we've got WWE. Let's go. It makes sense to go from UFC to WWE, where this coming Sunday we have the Extreme Rules pay-per-view that I will be enjoying with my son. As in my household, we watch every WWE pay-per-view, no matter how crummy it may appear to be on the surface. Now, our last pay-per-view was Payback, which happened about 3 weeks ago or so, about 3 or 4 weeks after WrestleMania, and that was a very forgettable, not terrible, nothing about it was like really overly bad, but just your very standard filler pay-per-view, which is kind of where we're at here in the WWE calendar. But one nice thing with some of these filler pay-per-views like Extreme Rules, or like we used to have with Elimination Chamber, or like we still have with Hell in a Cell, is we get at least, some very likely OMG highlight type of moments set up in certain matches that we can at least look forward to, even if the feuds and the storylines or the overall performances aren't all that great. So what we'll do is we'll just run over the match card quick for the pay-per-view and give you some quick predictions, some general thoughts. But we'll start with what I believe is the pre-show match. I'm pretty sure it is newly called up from NXT, Baron Corbin taking on Dolph Ziggler in a no disqualification match. Be very surprised if Ziggler comes out of this with a win. However, if they plan on continuing their feud for another pay-per-view cycle or whatever, that is the only chance that Dolph has of winning that match. Otherwise, Baron is definitely winning this feud, this rivalry, this storyline. It's just a matter of when the end date on it is. We don't know if it's this pay-per-view or the next pay-per-view. But then in what I believe will be probably the first match, or one of the first matches of the main pay-per-view card itself, we have Kalisto versus Rusev for the United States Championship. Kalisto versus Ryback put on an amazing United States title match at the last pay-per-view for the second time in a row. Their match at WrestleMania was excellent as well. Do not be surprised. I want to say Kalisto is wrestling half injured, so do not be surprised at all if Kalisto ends up losing the belt to Rusev, who will become a 2-time United States champion, and they'll use that as another little push, but albeit little, for Rusev and his very stereotypical Russian/Bulgarian character. No stipulation, though, in that match, at least not announced at the moment. Then we'll have Dean Ambrose, well, not necessarily in this order, but we've also got Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho in the first ever Asylum match, which is just kind of a glorified combination of a steel cage match and a Hell in a Cell match, except it's similar to Hell in a Cell in that you can't gain victory via escaping the Asylum. The Asylum looks like the steel cages that they use, except it is black chain link fence and wire instead of silver and gray. There is no roof on it. That is how it differs from a Hell in a Cell. There are all kinds of weird, strange weapons attached at the top of the Asylum. If you were to climb up to the top, then you could fetch some interesting weapons to use that they have hung up there. But so it's very gimmick based. Again, Dean Ambrose should definitely come out of this feud with the victory.